Yeah, it's good to see the guys coming out with energy on practice 13. Just being in this business for as long as I have, I've seen practice 12, practice 13, practice 14, where sometimes you get teams, even the best of teams that are mentally tough, start to feel like, it's harder than in fall camp, in my opinion. Because fall camp, you got North Carolina or whoever you're playing game 1 2 weeks down the road, where here you don't. So testament to these guys in terms of, you saw continuous competition 2 hours into practice. Even, 2 hours into practice, guys are competing at a high level and working hard. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but I appreciate that because they just are falling in love with the process. And the process is these type of practices that even though there's not a game in 2 days or the next week, there's this all means something going forward towards next season. So fun group. It was a fun day today.
What kind of stuff are you guys still hoping to accomplish these last couple practices?
Oh, continue again, just to fine tune. We'll come back on Thursday and hit some special situations. And then Saturday, continue to put it all together. I mean, we're definitely past the install stage, really, a few minor things we might put in, tweaks, but just continue to fine tune what's, in the system, continue to fine tune fundamentals. And, but at the end of the day, with this is 15 practices, it's only a third of the practices, or estimate third of the practices. 2/3 of them are still in fall camp, so we'll always still have a long way to go, and so we'll be able to reflect back after practice 15. Okay, what do we need to do coming into fall camp? So I'm just excited about, again, what were the good that we need to keep building on, and what were some of our weaknesses, because every team has them, every person has them, and those things we need to continue to move towards strengths through the off season into fall camp. We'll find more of that out as we go through these last 2 practices.
Can you talk about some of the methodology that you use with live reps, simulating game situations?
Some of the methodology in terms of
getting them prepared to be able to play games based on their practice reps.
Oh yeah.
When you're doing it live.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to put guys in situations. If you're talking about why we do it or what we're trying to do, you want to simulate as much as you can towards practice. In practice, to make it feel like a game for the guys. Now, you necessarily don't want to tackle all the time. You don't go live on quarterbacks very often, even though we did last week, with a couple of guys, because they feel it. Because I always felt like in the past, I used to talk about, driving range is one thing, but the first tee is another. And especially with quarterbacks, that's kind of like 7-on-7 reps compared to real reps. So, but that can, relate to other positions. So you want to do everything you can in practice to feel as close to game-like. Like Coach Wilcox had us in some game-like situations, even if it wasn't tackling all the way, just to try and put ourselves in those moments, kind of that heated moment too. Feel a little of that stress on what it is to be a 2-minute drill or a 4-minute drill or whatever that might be. So, and we do a good job of that here. Coach Wilcox puts us in those spots, so our guys feel like the game can almost slow down.
You're still making personnel decisions too, in addition to installing and practicing.
Yeah, that'll happen. Yep, all the way through. We definitely won't. Whatever we set, and I put air quotes, as a starting lineup after this next couple practices, I guarantee it won't be the same come North Carolina. It never is. So I don't get too wrapped up in that. I think people get too caught up in depth charts and what it is, but at the end of the day, if you set it and you set it in stone, then you're not allowing yourself, you want to be able to, a depth chart is always flexible all the way through, and that's all the way through the season too, and it keeps these guys competing, and it keeps us, and that's the way it should be.
How has the quarterback competition kind of played out over the spring?
Oh, it's been good. It's been just fun to watch them, more than anything. Each of them, they've grown, and that's what's been fun to see. And Coach Dewey does such a good job developing all 4 of them. Because it's one thing, you see that sometimes where, 1 or 2 guys can develop at a different level. And obviously we have some of that within the quarterback position where some guys are younger, some guys are older. Ross obviously experienced, but you just see them all developing. And that's what's, to have 4 guys continue to develop from last fall through the spring, that's exciting to see. Because I've told people this. I feel like, I feel very confident with any of those 4 quarterbacks in terms of what we're doing offensively, 100%. So it's and I wouldn't feel that way unless I saw it. I saw it on the field and I saw what's happening, and so it's been a fun competition just to watch how it's played out.
You may have just answered this when you were talking about the depth chart, but were you hoping to name a starter out of the spring, or is that something you just kind of let play out as it goes along?
It's like one of those things again, though. Even if we did, it wouldn't change the competition going to North Carolina. I mean, if we all of a sudden named player A, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks into fall camp, it's not even close between player B and he's beating them out, then why the heck did we name, if we're going to, continue to compete? So, yeah, there could be one named in depth chart, but that doesn't matter when it comes to competition in fall camp at any position, and quarterback included.
In our limited view of open practices, Jordan Duncan and Tariq Johnson seem to be a couple of guys that are taking advantage of some extra reps with some guys out. Can you talk a little bit about how they developed this spring?
You hit that right on the head. Both those guys have gotten a lot of reps this spring with guys out, and they've both developed quite a bit. I've seen Duncan really develop in terms of making plays outside. He didn't necessarily play a lot of outside receiver last year. He caught, his balls primarily in the slot. Did a little bit in practice, but he's getting a lot of outside reps. So he's Jordan Duncan's really sharp, so he can handle being moved around to different spots and handle that within the offense. So it's been fun to see that. And he's competed when he's tired at times too, because he's taken so many reps. So really respect how he's attacked this spring. He's done a great job. And Tariq's been one of those guys you'd say, if you have to name some guys, who's changed the most in 6 months or in 12 months. I mean, it's really, he's taken it to a whole nother level to where he was. So that's a credit to him. That's a credit to Coach Edwards and the work they've done. And he's just playing. The game's slowing down because they're understanding too. Especially a guy like Tariq, he's starting to get reps within our offense, and he's just starting to hear things, and they just paint a picture or see a signal and it paints a picture rather than having to pause and put it all together. You can never play fast or free when you're thinking in any sport. I don't care what sport. If you're thinking, you ask anyone who ever says they're in the zone, they go, "Oh yeah, I was thinking." No, they always say I wasn't thinking about anything. And that's where you get these guys to where it becomes an artist thing and not like thinking about what you're supposed to do.
How much growth have you seen in that tight end group this spring?
A lot of growth there too. It's been fun to, and I've spent extra time with them with bringing Coach Toller on, and between Coach Regal and I both, working with those tight ends. So it's been a lot of fun to see their growth. They just care so much, and and it's not even about getting touches. Sometimes tight ends get the idea like they're basically receivers, when at the end of the day, you're going to block a lot more than you're going to catch footballs. It's just a reality, and that's almost in any offense, unless you're just split out the whole time. So, but that's not it for them. They care about getting better at their craft. They care about us moving the football. They care about, sending a message leadership-wise. So it's a very, very fun and mature group to coach, all the way through, and, definitely seen some growth.
Did you work on some situations today, and if so, how did you do in that?
We did. We worked on a coming out period where I thought the defense really got after us. I didn't think we did a good job at all. I mean, we'd have been in a spot where we were down at the -3, and we didn't. We got improved. That's something like you may not get enough reps before now going into fall, but we say, hey, we got to get better. Maybe it's getting ourselves down there more, but for whatever it was worth, defense got some 3 and outs down there, so we would have been punting from backed up, and that was the first one we worked. Then we got into a 4-minute drill and followed by a 2-minute drill, and we picked it up a little bit offensively, and we were able to do some good things in both those. But like anything, I never get too high or too low because I've seen both sides of it. I mean, once in a while maybe I get low and I get my butt kicked, but I try not to try to get too much. So we did some good things in those drills, but I'll bet we'll go back and look, and see, but it's never as good, it's never as bad. So, but it was fun to get in those drills, understand those situations, when to stay in bounds in a 4-minute drill, when to get out of bounds in a 2-minute drill, killing the clock, that was good work for us on both sides. I mean, it's always good work getting into those situations.
We ask you a lot about the offensive guys. Who are some of the defensive guys that have stood out for you that you see during practice and think, oh, I'm going to have some trouble with them?
I mean, there's been a few, and I'm not into starting to pick out guys, especially when I don't coach them and they're on the other side. I just have so much because what'll happen is I'll say someone and they'll come back and go, gosh, actually I should have said him. I forgot about him. What I'm seeing out of our defense is they're hard to go against every day. That's what I'm going to tell you. Without picking out, they're tough to go against because they play with high effort, because they know their assignments, they're incredibly well coached, and they're very athletic too. And that doesn't mean we're perfect or anything like that. Neither side is. But I just know that when we play against our guys, there are numerous times last year where I felt like it became much easier in games. 100%. With just the technique they play with, the discipline they play with, they make things harder than we feel in a game. So that's the best thing I can say about them as a whole.
So often you see quarterbacks make a big step forward their second year after starting a year. What subtle things have you seen Ross develop in after his first season starting?
Yeah, he just has a subtle ability, really, to see things even that much quicker, hear a call or see a call and knows right. You know, just everything goes in. It's not, again, processing it. Change of protection. I mean, extremely good at that. He's getting better and better in some of the pull game in the read run game. You know, so again, he's going to, you know, be able to, you know, he may not be blazing fast or that, but he can still put a hurt on a defense by pulling it occasionally. He's doing. This is something I noticed. Two different things. He has a really good response after something doesn't go right. You know, it's had it happen a few times where sometimes he let things, because he's as competitive a guy as I've been around. I mean, just competitive. Sometimes it would get so much, it would, you know, something would crush him on second down, but he might have let it affect him a little bit on third or fourth, even in a practice. I've seen it numerous times. It's just as competitive, but he's able to kind of channel in on what's important, and that's what's next, and staying in that zone. So that's been one thing that I've noticed about him. Also, when he does make a mistake, he's quick to know it. He's quick to almost correct it before you even talk to him or Coach Tui even talks to him. Instead, he's almost correcting himself, where last year maybe he was still, you know, he was still kind of, you know, he might look at you like, okay, you know, he's still kind of learning it when he makes a mistake, didn't know he did. So it's just more of a, like I said, a command. He's up about 12 pounds, 14 pounds, and you feel more strength even in, I know it doesn't necessarily mean your arm's going to get stronger, but it just feels like it comes out with more pop. Just a lot of little things he's done. He cares about it, so he attacks it all year.
This may not be a fair question because you're so far away from Carolina, but you just talked about the pull game, and I wonder, it made me wonder, is Brandon different enough from the other guys that you could go into the season using two guys or having a packet, you know?
You'd love for me to talk about that, wouldn't you? I mean, hey, North Carolina, you want me to talk about that? I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's got to play itself out. I mean, whether it's Chase Garber's been doing great in the pole game, you know, and, you know, Chase Forrest has been operating really well. I mean, they all actually have. So it's not just Brandon. Actually, like, you know, Forrest had a couple of great ones today. Garber's had a practice earlier where he did it. Brandon has some of the most natural speed, so they've all been getting better in that, which is going to help us make the defense defend an extra gap, and we'll just let fall camp play out.
All right.
Thanks,
Coach.
Thank you.